So, hello. Yesterday in our writing class, we had the chance to continue working on our episode 3 drafts. We were engaging and orienting our reader by establishing context and point of view. We used literary techniques to strengthen our writing, and we thought about how we could organize our event sequence logically and naturally. So, today, what we are going to do is continue our drafts by including these signal shifts from one time to another, and we're going to be continuing to use those specific transition words, phrases, and clauses, and we're going to continue to develop our craft by thinking about what two literary devices we can add into our drafts. Okay, we're also going to be thinking about our setting and continue to enrich it by using words and phrases, relevant details, and sensory language. So I'm going to quickly share my screen with the PDF PowerPoint. All right, awesome. And so the two character traits that I have been changing throughout the first two episodes are Abigail's gentleness and trusting nature. And again, I am not doing a complete turnaround on this aspect of Abigail's personality. I'm just changing a shade based on what's happening in the plot. So we want to look at this we want this to look a lot like real life. We're shaped by our experiences and encounters, right? We might be a kind person naturally, but clearly if we're going through experiences, that kindness might start to change a bit, right? It doesn't have to be a complete change where you suddenly become the meanest person alive, but it makes sense that due to experiences, that certain character traits are not going to stay completely the same. So because Abigail is on this great adventure, I'm going to give her the ability to appear strong and brave. In addition, because she will need to do some investigating, I'm going to make her a little bit more of a detective and a little less trusting. Okay, so now that I know what changes I want to make in Abigail, I need to think about exactly how to do that in writing. So one great way is through the inclusion of relevant descriptive details and sensory language. Okay, so before I show you examples of that, let me think about how I can showcase these certain character traits that I have written on the left side through certain behaviors and attributes. Okay, so if I'm looking at her character traits, she's kind and studious, gentle, thoughtful, and trusting. And so I can show this through certain behaviors and attributes, like she likes to read, likes to walk and garden, doesn't like pretense or formality, twirls her hair when she is nervous, loves animals, is a quiet personality, is athletic, is very kind, especially to people in need, is sometimes too trusting, has a habit of chewing gum that she is trying to break, her favorite food is ice cream, and she has two best friends, right? So I'm thinking here of how the certain character traits I have attributed to my character can be shown throughout my writing, okay? So now let's jump through here where I can show you examples that I'm thinking of Abigail, in terms of Abigail and how I can use descriptive details and sensory language to show how Abigail has changed as a person. So qualities to change and to develop is I'm going to make her more brave and more strong, right? And so this is how I can exemplify this change, right? So she summoned the courage and made the plane reservation for El Salvador. That definitely takes strength and bravery for someone to do. Even though her stomach was churning inside, she got off the plane and made her way to the gate. Someone who was not brave would have done something like probably not left the airport or found another plane to go back home. As she worked with the sick baby, she was tempted to run away in tears, but found the strength to stay. So she had to fight temptation. She had to find the strength for her to continue on with her mission. Another quality that I'm going to change about Abigail is I'm going to make her trust, her trusting nature, even less trusting than it is. So the examples I'm going to use to show that she is going to be less trusting is as she began to speak with Wilton, she was tempted to just tell him everything, right? She was tempted to tell him, hey, you know what? I'm here because I want to find out about my mom, right? She was tempted, but she decided to play it smart. She would need to be cautious around him, especially if he was somehow involved in her mother's death. Another example of how I would do that is as the woman approached her, Abigail decided to use the opportunity to get some information. So how long have you known Dr. Corley? Okay, so if I think about how my examples work in developing my character, I can think about those specific plot details that I've included, right? The sensory language that I put in there, the fact that her stomach was churning, that she was running away in tears, right? So now what we are going to do is have the next 8 minutes. I'm going to ask that you silently think of some examples of change in your characters and insert them into your drafts. Okay, so I'm going to give us all 8 minutes. I'm going to ask that we are working independently, silently. We're not smiling off to the side. We're not talking to people in the room. We're just writing for 8 minutes straight. And I want you to think about how you can change a certain character trait about your character within this episode. Okay, so I'm going to give us 8 minutes. So the time now is 2:27. Why don't we work until 2:35, and I will let you know when it's time to move on. I see Jessica's immediately started to write. Thank you for your urgency. So has Bailey and Vicky and Tanzel. Thank you, Carlo. Daniel, are you there? Daniel?
Huh?
Are you there? Your video is frozen. Thank you. So at the end of the 8 minutes, I'm going to ask one person to volunteer to share an example of a trait that they changed and an example of how that was shown. Carlo, put the blanket away, please. Or wasn't you? Sorry, I think it was for a second. Tanzel, you need to be drafting. Thank you, Jason, for working 100% of the time. Thank you, Bailey and Leilani and Jessica, Carlo. Carlo, take your hood off.
Oh.
Okay, thank you.
Rest of your video there. Hello?
Yes,
Is your video working?
no,
Can you try again? Because I'm going to ask to see everyone's work.
okay.
Thank you. So take about 5 more minutes. Remember, I want to see at least 2 character traits changing within this episode, and I need it to be exemplified through those sensory details, descriptive language, right? Think about how you can show readers Don't tell us my character has become kinder. Show us, right?
Yeah,
Is everything okay? You're just frozen there.
Jesus.
Great, thank you. Morris, are you clear on what to do? Yes, no?
No.
Okay, so what we are going to do is you have the next 4 minutes. You will have time later, but we are drafting in 2 character changes in our episode, our 3rd episode. So think about how your character was characterized in episode 1 and 2. So in the 3rd episode, we want to see this either develop or change. And that change or development should be shown through examples. And those examples should include specific plot details, sensory language, right? So if you take a look at the PowerPoint that I have up, you have my examples. I've said something like, she was tempted to run away in tears, but found the strength to stay, right? So think about the way I'm using language to exemplify the fact that she had to become a stronger and braver character, okay? So why don't we take
Okay.
about, thank you, 3 more minutes, and then I'll have everyone just show the screen what we've done so far. Thank you, Morris, for getting right to work. Thank you, Daniel. Take about 1.5 more minutes. Tendel, let's stay on task. Can I volunteer to share something that they wrote? Anyone? Leilani, you want to share? Sure, okay. So in a minute, we'll have Leilani share exactly how she either developed or changed a character trait. Yes, Jason, question?
No, I wanted to share.
Okay, we can have 2 people share then. Okay, great. Why don't we put our pencils down? Let's track Leilani. Leilani, could you please read for us how you either developed or changed a character trait?
So I was thinking like from her going from being like very like goodwill to like bad-willed, but then bad-will to goodwill. Like so I was like stuck between two. So I went with bad-will to her being goodwill. Yes,
Hold on,
so
could you speak a little closer to your mic? I'm not sure if everyone can hear you.
I wanted for her to go from bad-will to goodwill. So I made her like stop using like her book that she had because that was something that symbolized like evil, like a secret, an evil secret of her family.
You want to read a specific line for us that shows this example?
Sure. She dropped her book as she collapsed to the floor. As she realized how many lives she had ended, and she no longer wanted to do bad with the book. She wanted to be good. She wanted to be the change in her family.
Okay, excellent, excellent. Jason, and then I'll call on Vicky.
Okay. In my story, in the beginning, my character, in the beginning, my character, was a spoiled brat, and nobody liked him. But because of his father's death, he began to learn that not everything comes easy. And then as the story goes on, he begins to learn that.
Okay, do you have a specific line you want to share with us that shows how you use either details or sensory language to show us that?
Not really. Well, I have. Well, it's just mostly just him reflecting on his past.
Okay, okay. Vicky?
Um, 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 one thing I did with my character was that so something drastic happened to the character's sister, and so the character's sister quit like feeling hopeless and sad and try to start persevering to provide for herself and take care of her instead of worrying about it, you know.
Great, awesome. I really like the examples you guys use because I think they're all super realistic, and I think that all of those changes or developments could be shown through realistic examples, right? So why don't we move on? We are going to have the chance to continue drafting. So I want everyone to take a look at the PowerPoint slide that I have over here. So earlier in the lesson, right, we thought about different examples of literary devices that we plan to include in our work. And so I know I put this chart up every single day, but I think it's important that we continue looking at this craft type chart because remember, the way that I'm going to be grading your paper is I'm going to be looking for an exact number of literary devices that you have included. So if you're noticing that you haven't included a literary, a craft yet, I think you should use this chart to figure out which one would best fit inside of your piece, right? So to quickly go over, you have simile, metaphor, personification, alliteration, allusion, analogy, hyperbole, and irony. So what I'm going to do is give you the next, we'll say 10 to 15 minutes to continue drafting, and I want you to make sure that you have at least 2 literary devices inside of your drafting work today, okay? It can be something as small as a simile, or if you could talk about a grand metaphor, okay? So the expectation is for the next, so the time is 2:38. Why don't we take until 2:48 to work on this portion of our drafting, okay? So I'm gonna leave this up for you to use, and I want you, the goal for us to be is within these 10 minutes to include 2 literary devices, and I can pick on 2 scholars if they would like to share what they did and how they did it, okay? So I should see everyone's pencil to the paper. Thank you, Jason and Jessica have already started. Remember, if you have any questions, you can raise your hand. Tanzel's writing, awesome, so is Bailey. Jalen, come on, let's focus, let's get on task. I think Vicky's writing, so is Leilani. Carla, it looks like you're writing, but I can't tell, so can you pick your head up? Thank you. Thank you, Morris and Daniel, for your urgency. Jalen, let's get there in at least 20 seconds, okay? So as you're writing, I'm just going to define these craft types for you. You can just continue writing. A simile is a comparison that uses the word like or the word as. Metaphor, you can keep writing, you don't need to look at me. Metaphor is an implied comparison. So in a comparison where the author states that one thing is something else. Personification is assigning human qualities and characteristics to non-human things. Alliteration is repetition of initial consonant words, right? Red rabbit ran rapidly, right? Allusion, an expression designed to call something to mind without mentioning it explicitly, an indirect or passing reference. Think about grammar. What are those allusions that we know? We know those biblical, literary, mythological, right? Analogy, pointing out a similarity between 2 things that are not generally similar. Hyperbole, deliberate exaggeration. And the last one is irony, the use of words to express something different from and often opposite to their literal meaning. Okay, the goal is to at least include two. Jalen, what's going on? Is everything okay? Almost 100% of us are on task. Take about 7 more minutes. Carla, keep your head up, please. Thank you. Yes, Leilani, that was an excellent example. I think you should include that. Great job. Say about 5 more minutes. Tanzel, head up, please. Thank you. Any volunteers in like 3 minutes? Is that a hand, Leilani? Yes, no? Morris, you want to share something for us? No? Would you be comfortable sharing something? I see Tanzel. Okay, so why don't we have Tanzel start off, and then if anyone wants to follow up. So we can take about 2 more minutes, okay? Yes, I see Vicky said. Okay, so we will have, you have a question? Yes.
What's that word that's like meaning like kind of mean miserable, but it starts with a D?
Miserable. You mean devastated?
Yes, thank you, that one.
Wow. That was a good guess. I was thinking of like damsel in distress or something.
You know, I try to do my reading every once in a while.
Okay, Miss Mari. All right, let's take one more minute. All right, take a few more seconds, and when you're ready, let's put our pencils down and try Tanzel. Tanzel, why don't you share your example of a craft type that you included?
Okay. You guys can hear me?
Hmm?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. So, I don't really know what type of craft this is, but I know it is a craft, right? So I put, he embraced his parents just as the ship exploded, lighting up the sky.
Say that one more time.
He embraced his parents just as the ship exploded, lighting up the sky.
He embraced as well. I think. What do we think? I think I have an idea in my head, but I kind of want somebody else to answer that. Repeat that one more time so we can identify the craft type that Tanzel included.
He embraced his parents just as the ship exploded, lighting up the sky.
Vicky?
I think that's, you said just as he lighted up the sky, right?
Yeah.
Like lighted up this. I think that's the idiom
What do you think?
or metaphor.
What do we think? What do we think? Those are good guesses. Daniel?
I thought it was a simile because it was comparing how he embraced them to a ship lighting up the skies, a rocket ship lighting up the sky. So I thought it was a simile.
Right. Did you use the word like for us?
Yeah.
Right? Excellent, right. Show me with your hands if you agree or disagree. What about the ship lighting the sky, right? Exploding and lighting the sky. Do you guys think that's personification? Right? So why don't I have everyone just pick up their paper, show it inside of the screen just so I can see how we are doing so far. Excellent, Leilani. You can put it down. Morris, bring it a bit closer. That was just an empty page. All right, Chanel, awesome. Tanzel, awesome. Jason, Bailey, Vicky, great. Jessica, Kaylin, Daniel, Jalen. Jalen, bring that closer. Excellent, Daniel. All right. Okay, great. So we have exactly 11 minutes left. So what I'm going to ask for you to do is quickly track the rubric that I have put up in our slide. I'm going to keep this up, and I'm going to ask that you continue to draft, but we've nearly completed our draft for the episode 3, and all that remains is that we have to conclude our episodes in a way that follows from and reflects on the narrated experiences and events. So for the next 10 minutes, you're going to draft your conclusion to your episode 3, taking into consideration all the elements of your story thus far. So again, there is a copy of the rubric, and I'm going to ask that you be silently, and I mean, you're going to have to be silent no matter what. So I'm going to ask that you do 10 minutes of finishing this episode 3 draft. And right before we end class, I'm going to ask that you just hold your paper up once again, just so I can see. Your homework is to finish drafting your 3rd episode. If there are any questions, just raise your hand. You can chat it if you don't feel comfortable saying it. Remember, the PowerPoint's up there. I want to see everyone's writing just like Daniel is and Jason is. And who else? I think Morris. Awesome. Thank you, Ms. Massa. Bailey, where are you? Jalen and Bailey, can you guys make sure that you're in the frame? Awesome. Great. Take 5 more minutes. Three more minutes. Let's take 1 more minute. All right, so we can stop right here. Can I ask everyone to just put up their work so far? All right, excellent. Chanel, Tanzel, you can put it down. Looking good. Carlo, Leilani, Daniel, Bailey, Jessica, Jalen, Kaylin, Carlo. Vicky. Really quick. Awesome. Okay, great. So your homework is to finish drafting this episode. Tomorrow we will most likely start the revising process. So it's important that, yes, we will be revising tomorrow, so it's important that you finish drafting as much as you can today. A few things I want to say. I think a lot of us are a little concerned about the fact that we don't have our drafts, and so we had to restart. That's completely fine as long as you are writing and you're trying your best every day. It's not something I'm going to penalize you for later, okay? So today we worked on drafting our episode 3. We worked on thinking about how we can include true literary devices. We thought about how we can show character trait changes or developments. And like I said, tomorrow we will have the chance to start writing, okay?